Hey everybody, it's David from Bunkie Life, and I'm so pumped to introduce this video. This is the second updated interview with Isolina Lavarano. It's fantastic. She shares a ton of information about what she's learned over the past 2 years. You're going to love it if you're thinking at all about turning your bunkie into passive-ish income. Well, everybody, I'm super excited to be welcoming Isolina Lavarano back from the Lavarano Lakehouse. She has been a client for a couple of years now. Bought a bunkie, I think, in 2019 or 2020.
Yep.
Yeah, 2019. Got it going as a rental. She's got a really cute setup there. She's got a little more of an upscale thing than what I did at my own place there. And I would say I'm kind of rustic retreat camping. Yours is more like, I remember there was like foot protective mittens and things like that you had
Yes.
to. So yeah, we did a great video. If you haven't seen it, it's on our YouTube channel, but she kind of explained her experience, and I'm so grateful you take the time again to come back. And
No
I'd love to hear
problem.
an update if you could for us, Isolina.
Well, in terms of update, I mean, I just delisted it for the winter because what my learning curve, if you want to talk about my learning curve, was, it's funny because I watched all your videos before I bought my bunkie kit, and I remember you talking about keeping it warm during the winter. And I remember I thought, I'm going to take on this challenge. I'm going to make sure that this bunkie is heated no matter what the temperature. Well, we did insulate the floor, which was funny in itself because my poor husband had to crawl underneath the footings because we did it after the fact,
Right.
versus
Hard to do after
before.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
But honestly, if you're going to try to make it insulated, you should do the roof and the floor.
Yeah.
And definitely caulk all the joints because it's not like airtight. Of course, we wouldn't have expected that. But I mean, most people were happy about renting it. You had the odd one that said it was cold, no matter what the heater situation was. But for the most part, I learned that it wasn't so much the heating that was the challenge, it was lugging the water because I have this, they have running water in the bunkies, in both the bathroom and the bathroom bunkie. But it's done through an off-grid type of system where I have like 7-gallon containers underneath the sink, one for fresh water, one for gray water. But lugging those up the hill in the middle of the winter when the hose is off outside is a bit of a challenge. so that was a bit of work too. But otherwise, it was pretty much booked solid. Like if I didn't block off weeks, I got requests, and so I had to be really diligent about, hey, I don't want to be up here this weekend, because people were sending requests regardless. And it was amazing. The response was amazing.
And this is you're talking about through even like the dead of winter as well? Like,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of came to the same conclusion. So just for the background story, if you're kind of tuning in and you didn't see the last video, Isolina has an amazing bunkie setup, kind of Muskoka area. Is that correct?
No, it's in the tiny region near Georgian Bay.
Right. So kind of, not crazy far north, but like northish. And she's been primarily renting out on Airbnb. I don't think you've used any other platforms.
No. Yeah.
And so with Airbnb, you have the option of saying, hey, anyone can kind of instantly book a date if it's available. That's how I had mine set up, because it was on my property and I didn't need to, worry. Like, I was there to always do changeovers generally. And if I had a problem, I would just block off the date if I was going away or something. Whereas Isolina needs to kind of drive there, and you were not always there, essentially, right? So you had it set, I believe, to like, they request the date and you approve the date.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the winter was epic. That's cool to see. And I remember I checked your listing. It was probably 6 months ago, but like you were getting a pretty good penny for your listing. Tell us about that.
I was brace yourself because it went up since the last podcast. I was renting it for $199 a night.
Whoa.
Yeah. plus a $50 cleaning fee.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. And this is just a Friday, Saturday, Sunday scenario, or what we do on the
Yeah,
weekdays?
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
And oops, yeah, people didn't question the price,
Hmm.
and didn't people, for the most part, felt it was that, there was value to it. Now I'm on the water, so that
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah.
The bunkie is not on the water per se. It's behind my cottage, on a hill, but in my woods. But they have a partial view of the lake, and there's a deck in front of it. So
Yeah.
it's still quite, and we give them access to the dock. If we had guests here on the weekend, because we're here all the time, so to us it's a novelty to
Yeah.
have the dock. So if we had guests, we'd say the dock is yours. We're not going to
Yeah.
disturb you.
That's cool.
And same with the beach, with the bonfire and stuff. So that was helpful, but also being close to Awenda Provincial Park, the entrance, literally within walking distance, also helped. So we
Yeah.
got a lot of people who were campers who wanted to try glamping
Yeah.
for the first time. And they were the best guests, because to them that was luxury, right? Like,
Mhm.
in terms of, wow, I'm not sleeping outside. I'm actually, warm and cozy in a cabin. And then when I added the ethanol fireplace, that actually brought things to another level, because people loved that ethanol fireplace,
Mhm.
because it's like a real fire. It is a real fire, except you're using a natural fuel, ethanol, to fuel it. And it lasts for like five hours. So
Mhm.
they'd have a nice fire, or sometimes I would light it for them before they arrived. And so that when they'd arrive, it'd be nice and cozy in there, and yeah, set the stage for their weekend.
That's awesome. And so if it's, you're would you do most of the cleaning yourself? So like that
I
would
did the cleaning.
you're making the
I would
50
do the
bucks there. That's awesome. So what would your cost be on like electricity and the ethanol and like kind of
Good
have you kind of done,
question.
yeah.
So what I did was, on the front end, invested in solar generators, which was like the portable ones, not the ones where you got to get a system, plug and play solar
Yeah.
generators. And honestly, they were really good investments,
Okay.
because most of the power load is like, I've got a one that's 1,000 watts, yeah, of power,
Yeah.
which pretty much can cover all the power for the small appliances. And what I did too was I sourced appliances like the microwave, the toaster oven, that were low wattage appliances,
Yeah.
so that it wouldn't like trip the solar generator if they were making themselves a teapot of water, or nuking something in the microwave. And
Yeah.
it's basically doing your math in terms of, okay, well, if this is 400 watts, that means, and it was learning, a learning curve, in terms of doing a lot of research on YouTube, which is how I found you and
Yeah.
your company, and well worth it. So in terms of energy costs, they were pretty low during the off winter seasons, because pretty much all the energy or power was coming from the generators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so once you went on, into the winter season, was your main cost just ethanol fuel basically to heat, or we also?
No, I did get a couple of plugs, sort of like outlets installed, in my bunkie.
Yeah.
One for the water heater in the bathroom,
Yeah.
and one for just to have for the heater in the main bunkie.
Yeah.
And it really didn't cost a lot. It really didn't, because once I put the ethanol fireplace, what I was getting feedback on, especially if I lit the fire prior to their arrival, was that it was like a sauna in there by the time they got
Yeah.
there.
Right.
So they'd either turn off the fireplace, because it's easily turned off, because you just have to stifle the flame, because it's got this lever
Yeah.
there, or they'd turn off the heater, because they'd say it was so toasty warm that they'd have to open up windows and
Yeah.
stuff, because
Right.
the bunkie's not that huge, right?
Yeah.
So power wise, that wouldn't be my big, not, it was very low.
Okay. So you didn't
Yeah.
like notice like a huge, like a doubling of your electricity?
No,
Okay.
no,
Yeah.
No,
That was
no.
my experience too. I found like and then I didn't have any wood heater, didn't have the ethanol heater, and so I had bunkies just blast and heat, usually like one or two heaters going if we're talking about the dead of winter. And so it was, maybe my bill go up maybe $100. Like basically one stay would usually cover the electrical additions. But I also found like you, like, because I had a bit of a trek to do and I had to make sure that in the dead of winter, just like, it's just not worth doing it. Like that was
Yeah.
kind of the conclusion I came to. Is that kind of the same reason that you're showing me
Yeah,
the
it
winter?
wasn't worth my while. I mean,
Yeah.
I really enjoy hearing the feedback from, the bunkie and what I did to it inside, because it's not an ego trip, but like I worked really hard to decorate it and source the items in there and try to make it as off grid as possible.
Mm.
So I would argue that my bunkie is like 90% off grid in
Yeah.
terms of everything that's offered within it. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of my renters who were wanting to explore what it was like to be in a tiny house, and because the tiny house trend is like crazy,
Yeah. Totally.
and
Yeah.
so they really wanted to have an experience in staying in a tiny house that was fully like operational as a regular house.
Yeah.
And so I got great feedback, like with all my stays. You get the odd one, which I don't know if you want to talk about that, but
Well, maybe we should zoom in on that. So I can tell you my worst experience.
Okay, I'll tell
On
you mine
Airbnb.
too.
So yeah, okay, we can swap because if people are considering this, they want the good, but they also want the bad and the
Yeah,
ugly, right?
yeah.
So overall, I didn't have anyone damage anything too bad. I think the worst damage I had was someone somehow lit a fire and it burned part of the deck, and they didn't tell me about that, which was kind of annoying. Another time, this is another winter stay. Someone took something off the campfire, put it right on the glass table, and shattered the glass table. It was actually
Oh,
like a plasticky glass, but it was like a $40 garage sale table. It wasn't anything crazy. And they told me about it. They offered to pay for it. I said, don't worry about it. I got it at the garage sale. Those are the two worst damaging things I've had. And I can tell the psychological damages later, but let me hear your worst case.
so I think my learning curve was that, and I'm not trying to discriminate, but
Yeah.
the younger renters either didn't read the ads
Yeah.
thoroughly in terms of what the amenities were, or had higher expectations that I didn't meet. So my first bad experience was early on. It was a young couple who rented it, and for some reason they thought we weren't going to be on site, which I don't understand why, because it clearly was, my ad is as clear as day that, we may be on site,
Yeah.
but we won't bother you.
Yeah.
And they were just bothered by the fact that we were around. So they dinged us on privacy. But I mean, you get an opportunity to write back on the interview. And I mean, they didn't give us that bad a review, but bad enough for my ego to have to respond to say,
Yes. Yeah.
you had the entire dock to yourself. My husband just needed to move the boat one time and excused himself when he came on the dock
Yeah.
to say, sorry, I just need to get into the boat.
Yeah.
So that was my first, but my worst experience was a winter renter last February, I believe it was. And it was my own fault because she only had one review online, and it was a mediocre review. Because, one of the things with Airbnb, you really should be researching, number one, your guests in terms of their reviews. That would be, and as a host, you really need to be honest about reviewing your guests.
Yeah. Oh my
Because
goodness. Yes. Yes.
yeah,
Absolutely.
and we can talk about that further, because I just
Yeah.
had an experience with my other Airbnb property on Captiva, where I just reviewed him very honestly for a reason, and I'll explain that later. But this horrible guest in February, which, by the way, is the only negative review I have on my Bunkie Airbnb, and the Airbnb, as much as I fought, refused to remove the review, and she basically gave me a 1 star overall, which
Yeah.
brings your rating down like tremendously.
Yeah.
Right.
Really
So
unfair.
I went from like a 5-star review, 5-star, not that I'm like, aspiring to be 5-star all the time, but it brought my rating down to like a 4.7,
Oof.
which
Yeah.
really ticked me off, especially since she trashed our place.
Mm.
She trashed it. So what her reason was, so they were there for the one night. She said she was coming with a girlfriend for a girls' weekend, ended up bringing a guy and a lot of beer. Not that I'm judging, but I guess they had a lot of fun in the bunkie and got so inebriated that they forgot to write to me to say they were cold. Because lo and behold, when they woke up the next morning, she writes me basically saying, "Hi, we had a really great stay overnight, but it's unacceptable how cold it is in here." And it's like, well, why didn't you tell me you were cold? I would have brought up another heater. If you were cold, I would have been happy to help you. And they ended up leaving very suddenly. And when I entered the bunkie, I realized why, because they basically had some, I guess, a drunken night, and the place was trashed and there was some damage. And the way Airbnb works, which is to me, a glitch in the system, is that you have to, so I called Airbnb right away to let them know. I sent them photographs of how they left the place. And my expectations at checkout, because I'm very clear about what you have to do for checkout. And they said, and I actually put a claim in for the damage, because they damaged, I don't have internet in the bunkie, but what I have is this television DVD unit that's actually a battery powered, so it's off grid. You just have to charge it, and you can play DVDs. And I leave like this really cool set of DVDs, and I gave critique each of the DVDs. This is a great comedy. This is a whatever. They broke it. And they failed to mention it to me, which is I felt was one of the reasons why they took off pretty quickly and made the claim they did. And I fought with Airbnb about taking the review off, because it was a retaliatory review. Because with Airbnb, you have to put the claim in within 24 hours of their checkout. And the problem is,
and then they know they've done that, and then they're giving you a bad review.
Then they give you a bad review. And so Airbnb's response was, well, you can respond to her review and write a negative review about her. And it's like, well, the damage is done already, because the rating is there.
No one's going to go down and scroll down to that review and then double, like they're not going to do that.
And so lesson learned, ask more questions about, don't be afraid to ask questions about your guests. And if, they're not being honest about who's coming, because, it's a very small place. So I've never had people come in multiples, thankfully. I say it's only 2 people. That's it. And whoever you tell me is coming, it better be the people who are coming. And so my lesson learned is, I thought you were coming with a girlfriend. This isn't the person you listed that you were, was coming. And so that's my lesson learned. There
you kind of learn when you're dealing with people to be a little more up, like front load the expectations and front load the that's not right, because you learn from, unfortunately, sometimes from experience. Like, I should have been more forthright and more kind of put my foot down at the start, and it probably would have in some cases negated all of that, right? So I remember walking into one of my same bunkie that you have, so it's kind of the very back end of my property, and I was like bringing them something or whatever, and I just knocked on the door, and then also there's like 6 people in this bunkie, right? And it's like I didn't make a big deal of it, because it's not the same. Like, it's it's a little more, but every time I've done that. So I wanted to get to the worst experience I had on Airbnb. It has nothing to do with actually anyone getting damaged or anything like that, and no one gave me a bad review. But this guy booked the bunkie, and it says very clearly, no pets allowed. Then when they agree to the agreement, no pets allowed, right? No dogs allowed. And then I'm at the hospital dealing with like a pretty serious family situation. This is back in 2018. I don't know if you know that whole story, but it, like, basically going through some family grief, like literally that day. This guy books the bunkie, and then he's like, "Can I bring my dog?" And I'm like, "No." like you can't bring your dog. And it's not even that I love dogs. I'm a dog fan. It's just, I live in the country. I don't want your little dog running into the forest and getting eaten by coyotes, and then I get sued or feel bad, right? So I'm just like, "No, sorry, you can't bring dogs." Right? And then this guy just starts ripping into me and like threatening me, and just like, what kind of a psychopath doesn't allow dogs? And I'm just like, like that was the agreement that you made when you signed up for this thing, right? So I think holding people to their agreements and making sure that like right from the get-go, if they're showing any signs of like not upholding their end, just calling them out on that right away,
Yes,
you know?
absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
Because some people like respect and appreciate nice people like I do, but other people, if they see any sign of like, oh, this person's weak, they're just gonna like, show up
Yeah.
with 15 dogs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No, I mean, I have 3 dogs myself, but for me, it's more like I'm trying to be respectful of my guests who might have dog allergies, because as much as you vacuum and clean a property, there
yeah.
could be allergens still in the unit. So
Mhm.
for me, it's more like, obviously I have tiny dogs, so they don't do a lot of damage in terms of like wet dog syndrome, like I like to call it.
Yeah.
Um, and if you live on a lake like I do, your dogs are going to come in with sand on their paws and wet fur and stuff. And if it's your own home, that's one thing. If it's somebody else's home, I find people aren't as invested in making sure that their dogs are off furniture,
Yeah.
etc. And I just don't want to deal with that. So
Yep.
I've gotten people who said, "Oh, I've got this great dog. He's such
Dogs,
good.
their
I'll put
dogs
him
are
in
the
the
best, well trained,
yeah, best
doesn't shed.
dogs, and it's like, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And so you lose customers, but at the end of the day, I'm really actually trying to protect my overall customer base,
Yeah.
because my husband has allergies, cat allergies. And the minute he's around a house that has a cat in it, he starts sneezing, his eyes start watering. And that's not a fun thing to have
Yeah.
when, and if you're paying money to come into a place and, all of a sudden you're sneezing, you're allergic, that, I don't want to take any chances like that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So yeah, I find the pet people were the most aggressive people in general about
Yes.
like trying to skirt the rules and stuff, right? Some people just show up with their dog anyways. It's like, guys,
Yeah.
like talk to this, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so okay, so I think, and one thing I want to say, like we're kind of in like complaining mode, but like this is the vast minority of guests.
Oh, absolutely.
99.9% of guests are awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like 99% of my guests have loved the Bunkie. In fact, I have one guest left before I shut it down, which is next weekend, and they're repeat guests, and they're coming back for their anniversary because they had so much fun when they came in April.
Yeah.
So for me, that makes me happy, because like I don't know if you've been on my ad, I market it as like a romantic retreat for two.
Yeah.
And I try to make it like, fancy enough for glamping, in the sense that I offer like very fluffy bathrobes, cotton bathrobes, disposable spa slippers, just to make them feel like they're being pampered in a way, and lots of treats in a treat basket. Sometimes, like if it's an anniversary, I'll offer like a mini prosecco, for them to have, like things like that, to make them feel like they're at a getaway versus just, renting a room somewhere kind of thing. So, so I try to add those little extra touches, and definitely they are appreciated by my guests, and the tiny little touches that I've put into the cabin, they really like. So, it's just to try to stand out. Like, you don't have to spend a lot, like, and people will say, you must have spent a fortune. I actually didn't. Because and I know your wife is the same, she likes to source stuff secondhand. And we're very fortunate that we're near a huge and fantastic Restore, which is a store, if anybody doesn't know, that funds Habitat for Humanity, which is a fantastic organization that helps build homes for homeless people, or people who are in housing crises. And what they do is they get people donating furniture, estate, contents, and then they sell it at great prices to fund, these projects. And so most of my furniture finds were from the Restore or Marketplace, and I just polished them up with, chalk paint or whatever, and they looked like they were like $1 million, once I was finished with them.
You really don't need to break the bank. You can find those deals
No.
if you're a little bit patient. If you have to do it all in a weekend, you might need to go to a store. But if you're Yeah, if
like
you're able to kind of,
anything, you can
yeah,
source anything. Like I got my flooring, like I put a vinyl floor over the wood because I was worried about people tracking into the wood and
yeah,
getting into the grooves,
yeah.
getting dirt and stuff. And I got that flooring for practically nothing at the restore because they'll have like end of lots, like 4 or
Yeah.
5 boxes
You only have a
left.
little bit, but that works perfect when you have a little
It
bunkie,
works
right?
perfect.
Yeah.
I paid I think less than $20 for my flooring
Yeah.
from the restore.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Well, so while we're talking about numbers, so you mentioned like, you're getting in the ballpark like 2 to 250 a night, depending how you think of it.
No,
Um,
one, yeah, 250, right, with the
yeah, if you
cleaning
count the
fee,
clean fee.
right.
What is your kind of like year? What if you scan back over the year? Because it's been 2 years, but like how has year over year it changed? And what, if you could give us an overview of kind of what the return on investment's been.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, I would say because I'm only partially opened, I mean, you could, and I don't like the first year I offered more weekends than I did the second year.
Yeah.
And that was for personal reasons because, I wasn't here and as much because my daughter moved to London I went to visit her in the UK. But I think you could like I made with a partial season. So, and like I said, limited weekends this season. I think it's going to be about 5,000.
Okay.
And last year it was double that.
Okay.
So, and like I said, I'm still offering very limited weekends.
So this is a business that works around your schedule more so than like,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. It's not a full-time. So I would say I've almost covered my costs in terms of purchasing the bunkie, that's for sure.
Yep.
And the bunkies, because there's 2 of them.
Yep.
So for me, I'm very satisfied with my return.
Yeah.
And like for me, it's not like an income that I'm relying on per se,
Yeah.
right? Like it's basically to recoup the costs that I put in for the bunkie, because for us, the original reason we bought them, and I know we've got a gaggle of girls in our family, just like you do. We've got 4, and as they grow older, they want privacy. And I wanted them to have like a self-contained unit and bathroom, so that if they invited their girlfriends, they could be up there and party, or if they have a boyfriend, they had some privacy up there, and I didn't have to like worry about that kind of stuff. And so renting it was just an added bonus to recoup costs putting it there, right? Or building it.
That makes complete sense. So I guess like if you think of it just as a pure investment, which it's not, because it's a lifestyle piece of your lifestyle puzzle, it's like 50% kind of is a ballpark return.
What happened? What are you? Where are you? Sorry. Okay.
No worries. And then if looking back on the last couple of years, what would you do differently? What would you change? What have you, if you were to,
Okay, good question. I would have had the roof insulated when it was installed.
To be fair, I probably recommended that.
Yes. I would have had the floor insulated before, and it would have been so easy because I did the flooring myself. For me to have insulated it before I put the flooring on top, because I could have put it on top versus my poor husband having to crawl underneath and do it after the fact.
Yep.
What else would I have done? I would have probably bought the bigger one.
Okay. I don't think it existed back then though, right?
No, that was your first year out.
Right.
And for me, it was because I was really worried about zoning and stuff, and I was worried it might be too high. And then I realized I was well within my, height restrictions. But I compensated for that because I had our builder bulk out the loft.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, I told you that.
It's just a little bit longer so that you can fit the bed a little
so easier. That the bed can be turned underneath the window, which works for me because then you can add storage on either side and, nightstands on either side. And it just worked for me better. And it was such an easy, an amazingly easy thing to do. It wasn't really that much of a cost,
Yeah.
other than the wood,
Yeah.
for that to be done. You know, so, you know, in hindsight, like I said, I think I would have, like gotten the bigger one, and you know, and not that it's a small, because what I like about the loft style is it's longer.
Hmm.
So the way I was able to configure the space, I got a lot of banging for my buck, like a
Yeah.
kitchen area, you know, and stuff. So it meets the needs I have. But I think for the second floor, you know, I loved, you know, the design of that new one,
Yeah.
the 2020 model, right? Because of being able to stand up in it and stuff. So that would be my only two, but I'm still quite happy with it. Like, cause
Mhm.
nobody even like it was funny. One of my guests, they were like these Amazon couple. They were lovely. Like they were both like 6 feet something, you know, and she gave us the quite a lovely review and said, even though they were giants, you know, they were quite comfortable, you know, staying up there and staying in the bunkie overall. So, because I remember seeing them and I'm like, oh my God, they're really tall. Like what, you know, and then they just like wrote the opposite and said how wonderful it was and how cozy it was, and that their height didn't really impact, you know, but be aware that if you are tall like we are, you know, you got to stoop a little bit in
Yeah.
the loft.
Yeah.
So
That makes sense. Well, I guess, if someone was thinking about doing this themselves, they're thinking about getting into the Airbnb, even on a part-time basis, maybe they just want to kind of have the bunkie pay for itself like you, or like actually do it on a more serious level. What would your advice be to them?
do your research, because there are competitors out there. I mean, as I told you this when I first bought your bunkie, the reason I bought it was because I was a research guru on product, and like I'm obsessive about research, obsessive, and maybe a little too extreme, but that's okay. But because of my research, that's why I ended up buying with you, because from a quality perspective, customer service perspective, to me, it's not just about cost. And I'm not trying to say you're outrageously priced, because you're not, for the quality that you get. You know, for our bunkie kits, I think you're fairly priced, to be honest, because I've seen some of the competitors out there, and to me, it just didn't meet my needs in terms of quality. And so, yeah, you might want to, you know, there might be less money, but with less money, you get less quality, in my opinion.
Mhm.
And one of the things everybody always says is, like, I get people, because I got this bright blue roof. So I get people like who walk across the road, the country road, and they catch sight of my roof of the bunkie, and they'll come down the hill and they'll say, "Can I see your bunkie?" You know, or I've had actually people who've seen my bunkie, you know, or heard about it through that last, like, you know, podcast or something, and they'll say, oh my god, I saw it featured on, you know, Bunkie Life, can I come take a look? You know, so, and now I think there's 2 people on my lake that actually bought from
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Thank you, by the way. Thank you for those referrals. Yeah.
And I think they were my visitors that like said, do you mind if I come and see it? Because I'm doing some like shopping about, you know,
Mhm.
buying one. And I'm like, yeah, please come.
Yeah.
So, you know, so the quality is always like the number one, you know, comment I get in
Mhm.
terms of, wow, this is really nice. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, that's why I bought it. It's really nice.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you just being so straightforward and honest and open to everybody. That's always been my playbook too, is like share what the good and the bad are, right? There's ups and downs. And I guess overall, like, would you say it's worth it? Is it something you want to keep doing after you get back this spring, or what's your plans moving forward?
I am going to keep doing it, you know, and I'll do it in terms of how, because I know I got such a good response, and knowing I have a product that people want, and that's the key. If you know, is it a product that people want? And I would argue that COVID helped. In fact, you know, didn't hinder, you know, the season of renting, because people who lived in the city, and most of the people who rented from me were people who were like condo dwellers in the city, who didn't have balconies, or, you know, felt confined because of COVID, because they were working in their home space and they just needed a change. And whether, you know, it was on the water or not. They just wanted to be in a different environment. And so I'm going to continue doing it to suit my needs in terms of, because I don't live up here full time.
Yeah.
And while I enjoy other people, like I like to enjoy my dock myself. So there's going to be like some weekends where I don't want people here.
Yeah.
And so it's worthwhile. It's, you've got to be real, you've got to be a people person too, because they are going to ask questions. They are going to reach out to you during their stay, and you've got to be accessible. So if you can't be accessible at least through technology like your phone, that's going to ding you in the Airbnb
for sure.
market. And like I have two properties. One is here and one is in Florida. And I'm just as accessible to my guests in Florida that I am to my guests here. And, it's not, I'm lucky in my profession because I set my own schedule. I'm not tied to, like, I can't, I can answer quickly because just, the business I'm in personally. But some people can't. So like I have a sister-in-law that was renting a property, and because of her job constraints, it just was becoming too much. And because she was getting dinged on responsiveness. And so you've got to be prepared to exercise your customer service skills and understand that people might see things that you don't. And that you don't agree with in terms of, and try to be, put your best foot forward in trying to make them feel as good as they can on your property. And I think too, make sure your ads are clear as day in terms of what you offer as amenities. And amenities include location, waterfront, be as clear as day in terms of what you offer and what you don't offer.
Yes. Yeah. Being transparent and just people know what they're getting, what they're not getting. That is so key because that's where most of the problems occur, is someone doesn't quite know what they're getting.
Yeah. So that would be my, and take a look at other people's ads in terms, because when you register on Airbnb, you can do searches in terms of other types of like tiny houses and stuff. And so you can get ideas. YouTube is a great resource as well in terms of getting ideas of, how you're going to lay it out, and products too. Like, so say heaters, getting ideas of which heaters are going to work best in your space, generators, whatever it is that you need for the bunkie, doing your research.
I notice you're also pretty involved in the private Bunkie Life or Facebook group as well.
Yes.
I'm noticing that's like now there's like 600 people in it now of like clients like you that are actually renting it out, but also clients who just have a bunkie. But I go on there and I'm inspired by other people's ideas and all the creative ways people are heating and staining and building and so
like I mean as I built my own toilet.
We love that.
And like and it's it's a urine diverting system, and it works really well, and it didn't spend a lot of money on it, and that was just by choice because of my budget at the time, and it just works out really well, and nobody has complained about odor because it functions exactly like the marketed ones. I know you sell toilets on your website. So
we just recommend the one. We don't make any money, we just recommend that company.
Right. But I kind of designed it on that design, and sourced the different products that I needed to build it, and it was really easy. And I did put a video on my YouTube channel on how to build, or like what you need to build it. And it works out beautifully. It's just like getting information from other sources is the key to building what you want.
Yes.
And finding out what people want who are renting as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think it's about kind of putting something out there in the marketplace, then getting a little bit of like not pivoting, but kind of adjusting it to basis of what people are feedback and what would you like to see more of, and that's kind of the formula. So start with a strong vision of what you want to see, and then you allow that vision to kind of come into focus over the course of people's visits, and that's I think what you've done and what we did at our place and with our Airbnbs, and it's so fun to see everyone's reactions and generally 5-star reviews are sounds like the norm for you and us as well, and it's it makes like I found it was a really kind of feel good kind of business. I always felt good about doing,
Yes, me too.
yeah.
Yeah, me too. I mean, the feedback was great. And I think especially for people who, are campers and are just wanting to go up a grade to try something different, especially with the bathroom bug. I mean, I remember when we were talking, when I was first buying the Bunkie, and I was asking you, do I have enough room to build a bathroom in the loft style thing? And you said, well, why don't you just buy a bathroom Bunkie? And I'm like, oh, I never thought of that. And then I did. And it was the best thing I ever did, because, even though it's not like in the actual Bunkie, it's literally right next to the Bunkie. And I have a connected deck almost. So they're literally just walking a second, to the bathroom, and I glamped up that space like to the best of my ability. And they have a hot shower inside there, running water, composting toilet. So they've got all the comforts of a regular bathroom, in an off-grid, a bathroom. And, that bathroom Bunkie was like, a game changer, especially for my daughters, because when I first told them about the loft, they were like, I don't want to have to walk all the way to the cottage to go to the bathroom. And it's like,
Right. It's right there.
you don't have to, the bathroom's right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think to me, it was really satisfying when my daughter and her boyfriend, the first time they stayed up there, and she actually went to the bathroom. Sorry if it's TMI. She goes, Mommy, it was just like going to in a regular bathroom, except that you just don't flush the toilet. You just pour, like this, thing over it. And I'm like, I know, I told you that. And the shower, that was a really good shower. It's like, I know, I told you that, and so your product was the first, step to inspiring the the that I put in them.
Yeah.
And so
well, mutually, I'm inspired. Sorry to cut you off, like I said. I'm mutually inspired by you guys, meaning the Bunkie Life or community, like the way that they've taken this basic shell and like riffed on it and made it so like, I see the videos of your place, and I'm personally inspired as well, because, basically I kind of got the we'll say the shell to it, but the way that everyone decorates and the way that everyone adds on to it is always unique to them and unique to the experience they're creating for their guests. And it's always so cool to see. Every single time I get jazzed when people are posting on that Facebook group and they're showing off their stuff, and it's so fun. That's one of my favorite parts.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I always enjoy the weekly videos of the new ones that you guys put on your website, because I love to see, what do they have? And I've actually gotten
that's not us. That's not me. That's just Bunkie Life clients. I guess we do usually once a week we'll post someone.
Yes.
Yeah, we do post that, but I'm talking like the private group. Like I'm not doing much. I just go on and like type funny memes in every once in a while, but like it's running on its own steam now, pretty much, for sure. Yeah. Well, Isolina, I really appreciate your time so much once again, and looking forward to seeing how it develops and how it evolves, and really appreciate. I'm sure this is going to be a very popular video, so I really appreciate taking the time to meet with me.
Yeah, thank you. And if anybody wants to see what we're talking about, they can go on my YouTube channel at Lavarano Lakehouse.
Yeah.
And I don't have that many videos there, but I'll
make sure there's a link somewhere around this video when we air it.
Okay,
we'll probably
perfect.
I might play this on the live stream on Sunday night, so we'll have that in the link as around. So
that'd be great. And I'm on Facebook too. I have a Facebook page as well. So people, the Facebook page is actually 4212 Bayside Villas, which is my place in Captiva, in Florida. But the Lavarano Lakehouse other stuff is there too as well. So
Really
you
cool.
know, but the links are on my YouTube channel, so
Okay.
people can go there if they'd like.
Okay, I'll
So
make sure that's up there. And thank you so much again for your time.
you're welcome. Hope to see you at the end of November.
Okay, for sure.